Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am doing another page in my Life Crafted album. Lately I've been really drawn towards simple spreads. I mean, everyone's busy. Everyone's busy enough without spending too much time on these sorts of things. I am no exception. And so this is just going to be another really simple page, but it ends up being one that I really enjoy it. Now I am starting with two base pages again. These are just white cardstock. I have trimmed them to 5 by 8¼ inches. I've got two small-ish photos. They're a little bit smaller than 3 by 4. I printed both of them on a 6 by 4 piece of photo paper. And all I'm going to do is cover up the right-hand side of my base page with this pattern paper from the Sweet Story 6 by 6 pad. This is this really pretty rainbow. I'm just trimming both sides of it rather than trimming it from one side because I wanted to get all 6 of those colors on there. It is predominantly pink and orange, but there's a tiny little bit of teal down the bottom and a tiny little bit of kind of cream at the top. And I really wanted to make sure that I got all of those colors. And so I have trimmed a little off each side, and I've trimmed that so it is 4 3/4 inches wide, so that when I lay that down on my base page, there's going to be a 1/4 inch. Is that right? Am I right? I can't quite tell on the measurements. There's a little bit of white all the way around the edge there. Now I'm going through the Hearts and Such ephemera pack, and this is probably the only part of this layout that kind of takes me a little bit of time to work out what it is that I want to do. I have pulled out the die cut that says You. I'm going to use that to create a title with in conjunction with some stamps. That's going to be on the left hand side of my page with my journaling, and so on the right hand really all I need is my photo and a little bit of embellishment. And I'm kind of thinking that my title is going to read Love You, and so the hearts make sense to me. There's all sorts of little hearts in this die cut pack, and you can see me just playing around, testing things out a little bit, and I'm going to end up changing my mind on that in just a second. Now, this really did take me no time at all. I have sped it up a tiny little bit for you guys. But barely any. So the whole thing took me less than 15 minutes to do, which I think is achievable as far as spending time being creative, getting a little bit of creativity in, but not spending hours and hours stuck at a desk. So I'm going to add both of my photos onto that right hand side, and like I said, I'm going to build my title here with that die cut, and I'm using the Felicity Alpha. I'm going to line this up on my block. It is a very kind of thin sans serif font. It is just beautiful. I'm using a block that has some grid lines on it because, especially for these very thin letters, I want to make sure that I get everything kind of as straight as possible. So lining that up onto the grid means that I can make sure that my first L is straight, which is especially important. I'm only going to stamp the word love here, so I really do want to make sure all of that is straight. And that way, as I go across the page, I can use the grid lines on the block and line them up with the previous letter that I've stamped to make sure that each letter that I stamp after that is all aligned. Means I don't have to rule any lines or use a guide or anything like that. It's for a short little word like this, it's the perfect solution for making things straight as possible. So like I said, I'm going to layer those stamped words, so the stamped word with that die cut. I'm going to use a little bit of a liquid adhesive for this one because it is a very thin, kind of fragile die cut. I'm using a little bit of smart glue from scrapbook.com, just dotting that on all of the little lines of this die cut, and I am using some tweezers to kind of place that to make sure it's kind of straight. It's a little bit hard to tell because it is that kind of scripty writing, but I wanted to get it as close to straight as possible, or certainly just eyeball it anyway. Now, I did love that little die cut that says my little love. It works so perfectly with my photos, and there are 2 other hearts there, and I did pull out a kind of a bunch of other die cuts that I thought I might add to but to be honest, I just felt like I was making it too complicated for myself. My whole thing was that I wanted to keep this page simple. I really want it just to be focused on the title and my photos, and adding all of these die cuts was just super distracting to that. So what I decided in the end was that I was going to remove those other two large heart die cuts. I'm going to keep the one that says My Little Love because that really was my favorite. That was my my whole sort of starting point for this layout. So I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to place it down on the bottom photo onto the left-hand side. I'm going to add that tiny little strip of hearts up the top there because it was just so cute, and it kind of looks a little bit like washi tape. And then I swapped out the other two larger hearts, and I'm going to use some of the smaller die cuts. So I wanted to pick ones, especially for that page, the heart on the right hand side there. It needed to contrast with the light pink that it was going to be on top of. You can see me here auditioning a billion other little pieces, and in the end it's like I had to keep telling myself, no, keep it simple, stupid, keep it simple, stupid. So that's what I'm doing. I used the darker red heart on top of the light pink rainbow stripe, and then I'm adding one little heart onto the left hand side, and that's going to be the element that ties these two sides together. Apart from the colors I think I mean, they're not quite monochromatic because I've got a yellow and a teal in there, but it is very pink themed layout, and that kind of ties it together as well. So my last piece of embellishment, I guess, is I'm going to use some of these hearts. These are from the January Puffy Heart stickers, and I'm going to add just one little puffy heart next to each of the die cuts, so I end up with 6 little hearts on there. But again, I've done the same thing as last time, and that I've used colors that kind of contrast with that background paper. So that means a red on the pink, I've used a white on the orange, and I've pulled the yellow from the right hand side over onto that left hand side with a little yellow heart. Before I added all of those hearts down though, the thing I wanted to do was to remember to punch the holes back into my pattern paper. My base pages, I do always tend to punch the holes in them, but when I cover it up with paper, I do need to remember to re-punch those holes again, especially before you stick down a puffy sticker. I don't want to have to punch through a puffy sticker. Not sure how well that would work, to be honest. Now I'm going to add my journaling onto the left hand side. Shock horror, I'm going to use my handwriting because I want to use this gold pen again to just tie in those colors a little bit more. I've ruled some lines, I've done my journaling, and I just really enjoy how this layout sort of came about. The only thing that sort of bothered me was the white puffy sticker heart. It kind of just sat there on its own and looked a little bit lonely. So what I decided to do was, I know it goes against my simplicity rule, but I pulled out some white ink, and I just made sure to mask up my photos with some scrap paper and add in a couple of white splatters onto the pattern paper side. And then I just grabbed some liquid watercolors, and I'm going to mix that with the white ink to kind of create my own pink splatters. And I'm going to splatter that onto the left hand side, obviously with that white cardstock. White splatters would not have shown up, so I've got white on the pattern paper, I've got pink on the white paper. It pulls the whole thing together, and I just really am super happy with how this super simple layout turned out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.